What up, IDS Mob? Welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm your host, as always, Harry Wilmington, and today we're going to be answering the question that men all over the world seem to be asking and don't know the answer to. And it's this: when you're about to hook up with the woman and you guys are getting a little frisky and she pulls down her stuff and you're about to go down there, and all of a sudden there's a big whiff that hits you in the face, like a big pounding, nasty smell. How do you tell her that she smells down there? And how do you get her to like clean it up so you can actually enjoy yourself in the proceedings? This is the thing that a lot of men don't know how to do, because I'm actually going to read a question from a guy today who wanted to know that. He was trying to hook up with the girl and she smelled down there. He tried to subtly tell her about it and she got offended. And it's a sensitive subject to women because it hits them in their feels. But as a guy, it's like, you got to talk about it. You got to bring it up because you don't want to do stuff and have to deal with the smell the whole time. So how do you bring that up in a way that she's going to accept it? We're going to talk about that and a lot of other awesome stuff today. But first, I want to talk about this. I've gotten a lot of great responses to my 5 ways to pass her pull-away test video. But I've also had a few guys that are going through that kind of situation now with the woman and have a few questions about that. So I'm going to answer your guys' questions about that today, and then we'll get into like the meat of this thing where we're talking about how to tell the woman that you're trying to hook up with that she needs to clean up a bit. All right. So this first response that I got from somebody in reference to that video. He said that he's going through this right now, and it's been 2 days since I've texted, and she hasn't responded. Should I text her back in a few days or wait until she contacts me first? Now, when you guys leave me questions like this, I like to know the whole scenario. So anytime you leave a question down in the comments, please give me like as much details about the situation as possible. So I asked him back, I said, hey, so like, what's the last thing that you text her and why were you texting her? So what he said was, the last thing I text her was, what are you doing? And then I asked him, why was he trying to text her that? Was he trying to like get on a date? Was he just trying to start a conversation or whatever? And his response was, I was texting her just to start a conversation. Now, how many shows have I done on this channel where I tell you guys emphatically that women do not want you to text them just to text? When you're not in front of a woman's face, she is doing a plethora of other things, whether it's dealing with work, dealing with home life, maybe wanting an alone time. Maybe she's an introvert also. But also to the point is that you think that you being around her all the time or sending her messages back and forth is going to build some kind of rapport that's going to make her connect with you. And that is rarely ever the case. The reality is that you're going to do a better chance of raising her interest level if you save most of your bonding time for when you're in person with the woman, where she can touch you, feel you, smell you, interact with you, all that stuff. So all this texting just to text is not necessary. All right, guys, I know you've been lied to. You've been made to believe, well, today's generation just text and that's what I got to do. But you got to think about this. A woman has access to her phone all the time, right? So there are other guys like you that are probably got her number and are thinking the exact same thing. If I hit her up all the time, she's going to like me. If I talk to her nonstop, she's going to build interest faster. And I can assure you, she's probably dating like none of those guys. But you know, the guy that she is thinking about is that one guy that is not texting her. That one guy that she gave the number to, and now he's out doing his own thing. And while these other 9 guys are texting her and she's, having these random conversations and being rather annoyed by it, she's thinking about that 10th guy that is not hitting her up and wondering what's going on. Why isn't he hitting me up? Is it something about me? Did I do something? What do I need to reach out to him? Does he like me? And that's causing that guy to win. All right. So answer to this guy's question, though, he says it's been 2 days since he's texted and she hasn't gotten back to him. What should he do? Right. So the first thing is this, is that you should never, gentlemen, never be texting women just random. Hey, how are you doing? What's up? Where you at? Just want to see what's going on. Because that is one of those things that it feels like boyfriend behavior. Like if she was dating you already and like you guys are in a relationship, then if you were to say, hey, what you doing, babe? It'd be cool because you guys have already established that you're in a relationship. Beforehand, it just seems like you're trying to keep tabs on her. And it seems like you're trying to be needy in terms of like trying to get her attention and need it all the time. And that's not what she wants from you. So what you do is this, guy, is that you've already texted her, right? Fine, great. Wait over the weekend and wait until Sunday. When Sunday hits, I recommend a phone call, but I know, again, most people are going to try to do texting. It's fine. Text the woman, and the thing you're going to text her is, hey, wanted to see if you were free Tuesday or Thursday. I found this great restaurant, and I want to take you out. So the point is this. Anytime you text a woman, the purpose of the text should be to ask for a date. It's not to try to chat her up. It's not to try to build interest or build rapport. The only reason you are texting this woman is to get a date. You need to treat texting like it is a gun. Like at any given time, this could be a dangerous weapon, so you only use it in the proper manner. And for a guy, the only reason you need to be texting a woman ever is to ask for a date, because you're going to save your rapport time for in person, where you can tell jokes that aren't going to be misread, where she can hear the tonality of your voice, which is going to turn her on, and where you can do things tactilely that are going to result in her having interest in you a lot faster than all this texting, okay? But wait a few days, wait till Sunday. I don't typically recommend that you need to be texting women on weekends, specifically Fridays and Saturdays, because those are days that she needs to think that you're out having life without her, all right? If you're texting her on Fridays and Saturdays, guys, just give you a little tip right here, right? Is if you're texting her or asking her out on those days, that indicates to a woman that you do not have a life outside of her, because those are days that are saved for like serious relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, or those are days that you save and wait for her to ask you on, which lets you know where her interest is at. All right. So don't text her till Sunday. And on Sunday, you just text her and ask her for a date. Now, I recommend to you guys this, is that you do not ask a woman out more than twice and get rejected. Okay. So let's say you hit her up on Sunday and you ask her out on a date, and either she doesn't respond or she says, I'm busy. Okay, fine. Wait another like 5 to 7 days and then ask her out one more time. If at that point she doesn't answer again, or she gives some other kind of excuse, that is her passive way of saying, I'm no longer interested, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. And I've said before, you can't fault women for doing it that way, because a lot of times in the past, when they've probably said to a guy directly, hey, I'm no longer interested, crying, possibly getting bodily harmed, or, having a guy constantly beg, we should be together, blah, 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 blah. So a lot of women are just going to phase out on you, and just take that as it is. Take that to mean that they're not interested, because I'm telling you guys, women that are highly interested will just say yes to a date. They will not flake on you. At best, they'll say, I can't make it today, but what about this day? So women that like you, help you. If they're not helping you, it's their subtle passive way of saying they're not interested, and you move on to greener pastures. All right. I know that as men, as people in general, we want an end to a story. So this is why a lot of guys will say things like, well, if you don't want to go out with me, just tell me. Guys, more often than not, that's not going to happen. Women don't want to hurt your feelings. And even if they don't want to be with you anymore, they recognize that your ego is not going to be able to take their rejection without trying to overly convince them why they should stay. All right. So if they start passively going away, that's just the way they do it. Leave it be. But ideally, guy, wait till Sunday, hit her up and see what she says. All right. So I got another response on that same video. And this guy had his own situation going on. He said, my flame wrote to me before my vacation and wrote, quote, take care and enjoy your well-deserved vacation. My response, I will. I'll call you when I get back. Horrible response, but I'll get to why in a second. So then he says, a week later, I come back and she went to Sweden with a girlfriend for 2 weeks. And I wrote her, I landed today from his trip, and it was very nice and relaxing. Just thinking about you. I hope you have a nice time. If you come back, I want to see you. Tell me if you come back. It's a vacation. Of course she's coming back. I want to see you. Tell me when you have time for us to meet, ? Since then, my message has been unread, but she goes online and is not reading it. Oh, trust me, she read it. I have not written a follow-up message and have been no contact for 2 weeks. It's a bit bitter, but I'm sticking with it. What is your opinion? Why does she leave me unread? So again, I said to this guy, hey, guy, I need more information. I said, I need the answers to why were you on vacation without her? And he said that it's a coworker, so they just started talking, whatever. Was her Sweden trip planned in advance or after you planned your vacation? I think he said he was planning in advance. Did you see her when you got back, before she left, or was she already gone? I said, has she been posting pics of her trip on social media with her girlfriend? Has she ever gone this long without responding to your messages? How long have you two been together? And has this been a relationship or just dating? And when does she get back in town? So he answered. He said, she is a coworker, and I asked her out because the chemistry is right and we get along well. Now, this part is important, guys. Listen up. He says, she follows me at work and also seeks contact and conversation and also gives me compliments. Let me say that again. She, of her own accord, follows me at work and also seeks contact, meaning she's seeking him out at work and conversation, and also gives me compliments. All right. So what is all this saying? It's saying that this guy's saying that this woman initially was coming to him. They were at the job. She was the one initiating. She was the one following him around. She was the one sparking conversation. She's the one basically that's doing all the work. What do I always tell you guys? What do I tell you guys time and time again? If she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. But what do most guys do? How does that go from her chasing to suddenly not being interested? This is what typically happens. The man starts to realize that the woman is chasing him, and then he decides he wants to chase back. And then once that starts happening, all of a sudden, the woman's no longer interested. He can't figure out how it went from she was chasing him and wanting him all the time to now he's showing interest back and now she's going away. And what happened is this, is that you no longer subconsciously made it her decision to choose you. How do we know this? Well, let's go back to his message initially where he says, he lands and says, I was thinking about you. When you come back, I want to see you. Tell me when you have time for me. So now what's happening is he's giving the impression to her that he's already thinking that they're in a relationship. And he's not allowing her to naturally build up the feelings and naturally build up that feel that says, oh, I'm actually interested in this guy, which is why I'm always seeking him out, which is why I'm always trying to be around him. Because now that, and it's happening too early on in the process. If this were like 3 months in, no harm, no foul. I don't know how long they've been working together, but clearly from the time that she started showing interest to the time that he started showing it back, there wasn't enough time there for her to really start to grasp that she's doing all these things because she likes him, because he interrupted it by trying to show it back. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, but Harry, like realistically, if I like a woman, aren't I supposed to show interest back? And the answer is this. When she shows you a signal of interest, you respond by asking her out. So if he had gone on vacation, for example, and had not texted her, then what would have probably happened at some point is she would have said, hey, just want to see how your trip's going. You know, hope you're having a good time. At which point he could have responded back, oh yeah, things are going great. Can't wait to, I'll talk to you when I get back. Boom. She knows that he's interested, but it's not an overbearing thing that he's displaying that's indicating to her that he's more highly interested than she is. But most guys make that mistake. She shows a little interest and we show a lot of interest, and then all of a sudden she goes away. So guys, this is why it's important to know, as much as women have this thing of like, oh, we want men to chase us. That's not true. Women want you to respond correctly to the signals that they're throwing out, because they're going to be the ones that are chasing you. And all you got to do when they're coming at you is say, hey, I know you're noticing me. Let's go out. Hey, you're sending me a text. That's great. Let's go out. And you should never be long texting. Like I say all the time, guys, texting kills attraction. So you don't want to get into this thing where you're messaging women stuff. And you definitely don't want to be messaging them things like, oh, well, I really want to see you. And I really think we go great together. This guy said, just thinking about you. You don't send those kind of texts, especially the first 3 months of dating. Like, because again, you're not aware that you sending these kind of messages, you're thinking you want her to know that you like her, but what she's always going to read your signals as 3 times more than what you're saying. So if you're saying, I'm thinking about you, what she's thinking is, in his head, he's already locked me down. No, you want her to have in her head first that she wants to lock you down, or she wants to be locked down by you before you start having those conversations about being in a relationship or giving off that you've been thinking about her, feeling about her. Like, none of those things are inherently bad to say to a woman once you're in an actual relationship. But until then, those are things that you should let her express and you respond to with actions like taking her out on a date. All right. Then she said, maybe we can meet in October when she gets back. Okay. And then I said, I'll call you then. But I asked 2 weeks ago when she has time. And again, this is that thing where it's a small thing, but it's a thing you need to know as a guy, is that when you're saying things like, hey, let me know when you're free, that's letting her know this guy has nothing else going on in his life. He's so available that anytime I'm ready, he's going to be there. And that's not attractive to women. Why? Because women want to be able to envision you out there living your life, building up towards your dreams and goals, possibly working towards money goals that you need to have in order to support her anyway, and doing things besides. She doesn't want to have this vision of you just sitting by the phone at home waiting for her to contact you or waiting for her schedule to open up. So this is why I tell you guys to ask a woman out. You say, hey, I found this great place to eat, or I found this thing to go to. I'm free on Tuesday or Thursday or Monday or Wednesday. You give her 2 days and you say, whichever one works for you. But that indicates to her that your time is finite and that the options you're giving to her are the options that you're available. So you give her the times that you're free to do some stuff, and she'll more than likely than not acquiesce to one of those 2 times. If she can't, a highly interested woman will say, well, I can't do Monday or Wednesday, but I do have this Thursday free. At which point you can say, let me check my calendar. I think I can make that work. So if she's throwing something back out there, that's great. But the point is, you don't just go to her and say, whatever day you're free, let's do some stuff. That is not attractive and appealing to women. And then he says, we're not together and we haven't met since I got back. However, I noticed that she has been a bit distant for some time. I have never over contacted her. So that's good. If you never want to over contact a woman, so that's fantastic. He says she has withdrawn before, but because her horses were sick and I always gave her the distance. She has horses. Okay. He said, I don't have Facebook or Insta, only WhatsApp, and she hasn't posted anything. She's coming back today. So yeah. So guy, here's the thing. Same thing I told the last guy. You only want to ask a woman out twice, but you want to make sure you're asking her out with a plan of a place to go already and specific days in mind that you already have, or that you know will work for you. All right. So no more of this, hey, whenever you're free, let's go do something. Like, don't ever be ambiguous about your date plans. You ask a woman out, hey, I want to take you to this place. I want to do this thing. I'm available this day and this day. Whichever works for you, let me know. And then you shut up and you don't text her again, because texting should be like tennis. It should be back and forth. So you lobby out the, hey, let's go on a date. I'm free these days. Let me know if you're free. And then she responds back with, I think this day would work. Love the place. I'll meet you then. And that's how you get the date. If you don't hear back from her, wait a week, ask her out again, and then leave it alone. And it's harder too, because I know you work with her. So it's going to be a weird thing. Like, I asked her on a date and she's not responding, but I'm seeing her at work. And then you're probably asking yourself, well, if I see her at work and she starts a conversation with me, but doesn't bring up the date, what do I do? Well, if she's not bringing it up, it's because she doesn't want to do the dates. Sorry to say that. Like, she doesn't want to make things awkward. She doesn't want to bring up the thing with you that she doesn't want to do, but she still wants to talk to you at work, but she doesn't want it to be awkward. So most women will just do this thing where they'll be like, hey, what's going on? Blah, 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 blah. Oh man, I did blah. And if they're not bringing up the thing that you talked about or the thing that you mentioned, then it probably means she doesn't want to do it. And again, women are passive. So she's not going to try to make a situation awkward, especially at a place of work, even though she knows she's in the wrong for not responding to you. But again, that's not really a woman you want to go out with, because dating is not hard. Women that like you, help you, women that want to go out with you, say yes to dates, women that get your text invites for dates, respond to them. None of this is hard. Everything else is just our ego saying to ourselves, we're such great guys, women should want to date us, so it must be a mistake. Guys, it's not a mistake. Women aren't dumb like that, all right? If they're not bringing up the date you brought up, it's because it's a reason. It's because she's probably not interested anymore, and she doesn't want to make things weird at work, but she's hoping you guys can still be friends and that you guys can be cordial, but she doesn't want you to bring up this horrible thing that she's doing. Just let it go, because calling out women, I have found, doesn't actually help your cause, all right? So just some food for thought there, guys. Okay, on to the meat of this bad boy. Today, we're going to talk about how do you tell a woman that her stuff down there does not smell good without hurting her feelings. Questions that every guy has and has dealt with. And if you're like me, you've had the situation, you want to date with a woman, you've had a great time, she's feeling you, you're feeling her, maybe made out a little bit in the car, and then either A, you go to like do some action with your hands, and then when your hand comes back to your face, you smell it and you're like, oh no. Or you guys are fooling around in the bedroom, and then she takes her stuff down, and you're going down there to, take her to Happy Town, and all of a sudden that smell just knocks the wind out of you, and you're like, oh my gosh, she needs to clean up. This is bad. How do I say this? So let's go into this guy's situation, because this is a situation we probably all dealt with, and I know how to deal with it because I just don't care. So here we go. So he says, I met this girl. We had great chemistry on our first date, kissed, made out to an extent, and then we slept over at a hotel. We did not hook up because she wasn't too comfortable. All right, guys. First off, let me just talk about this. All right. Please, guys, stop doing this. Stop getting hotels to hook up with women that you have not yet hooked up with, because you know you're going to feel some kind of way if you pay all this money for a hotel and nothing goes down. Yes, you're trying to hedge your bets, and maybe you're a guy that say you live at home with your parents or you have roommates and you're hoping that some stuff's going to happen, but you don't want to do it there because there's noise and people and neighbors and walls and stuff. And you're thinking, if I get this hotel room, it's down. But here's the thing, is that when you make a blatant act like that, it's making the act of hooking up to a woman no longer her choice. And what we want to do is have a woman feel as though she always has the option to say yay or nay to the things we're putting on the table. When you spend money on a hotel room, that is telling a woman emphatically that I'm expecting us to do some stuff. And again, it's not necessarily a bad expectation, but it's the thing of putting in her head that it's no longer a choice. Even though you're thinking, even if I get the hotel room, we don't have to do it. But women are like, realistically, they know how guys are. If we're spending money on some stuff like that, we're expecting some stuff to happen. So when it doesn't, she could be thinking we're going to get very upset, and that could actually close her off to wanting to do some stuff. So your first hookup should not be one of those things that happens in a hotel room that you paid for. Ideally, it's happening in a place that you live. If you live with other people, I've had first hookups in cars before, or like, in secluded places where we can be alone to ourselves, where I don't pay a lot of money for it. So just consider that, guys. But anyway, so we didn't hook up. And he said, we met the next day at her place. Okay, again, I've talked to you guys extensively about not doing a date one day, then the date the next day. And then you want to keep yourself as sparing as possible early on. Like you should only be doing dates once at tops twice a week in those first few dates, because you can cause severe burnout. Check out some of the show I did last week where I talked about this guy, whereby by date 6, they've been on 6 dates in 2 weeks. And by the 6th date, she was already tapping out. So really, I get it. You're horny. You have a allegedly guaranteed hookup with a woman that's interested. She's trying to ask you out repeatedly. But dudes, I'm telling you, you're going to do a better job if you are spreading out these first few dates. All right. Anyway, continuing on. He says, we met the next date at her place. We made out. We did not hook up again, but she had an orgasm via my fingers. Okay. Fantastic. Congratulations. But even then, because we're going to get into the story about her stuff smelling bad. So you did the stuff with your hands. You didn't think to smell your hands to see what she was like down there. Like nothing at all. You guys, you got to have no shame in your game, man. You got to test this stuff out before you start doing other things down there with more than just your hands, if you know what I mean. So then he says 3 days later, so he spread out a little bit. 3 days, but this is still 3 dates in 1 week. Not good. He says 3 days later, we met at her place after kissing and making out. I did not again make love to her, even though we were completely naked, because I was turned off by the smell. So this is what he did. He said, I subtly told her why I did not follow through, because I just wanted her to sort it out, but she got defensive. And then she pulled back with busy. This is the pull away test now. Then she pulled back with busy excuses, tried meeting up a couple of times, but she just did not make herself available. Of course, I did not pursue and stop contacting her. The issue is I really do like her, though. Even though I have had lots of experience with women, I'm a bit lost on this one, so I need suggestions. So like I said, this is a situation that guys just in the realm of dating, if you start getting really good with women to where you're going out on regular dates with more than one woman, like say you might have a month where you go out with like 5 or 6 women, and let's say like 3 of them want to hook up, right? And it's inevitable. There's going to come a time, whether it's during these first few dates or even when you get into a relationship with the woman, that you're going to be hooking up with her and her stuff down there is not going to smell that great. Now, for any women that are watching this and thinking, how dare you, that's offensive, I do want to say this to guys, right? Is that on average, there's always going to be, not always, because some women are really, really good at like, they're using douche, they're using soap, they're using whatever to where they spray down with fragrances and perfumes to where they don't have any kind of smell whatsoever. I've dated a few women like that where they have no smell, and that's admirable. But realistically, it's a human body part. It gets sweat like everything else, and the vagina itself is self-cleaning, but there might be a faint, small like vagina smell. All right. And it's not like it's supposed to be a funky odor smell like that. There might be just a faint smell that you just know, oh, this is a vagina. And so this is not the smell we're talking about. For you ladies that are watching, we're not talking about just the natural vagina smell that's going to at times be there because, hey, just like, men, we have stuff down there too. And sometimes, there might be just a natural guy smell down there. I don't know for sure. But the point is that we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is, woman gets up in the morning, she works all day, she goes to work out, she does other stuff, and then she goes on a date that night. She hasn't had time to shower, gets home. She now has the day down there. Sweat smells, friction smells, just natural secretions that come out of there. And she hadn't had time yet to go take a shower, bathe, things like that, right? So there's going to be times when women are going to smell down there, and you're wanting to either, wine and dine down there or do whatever down there on her thighs or on her stuff. And you're thinking you want to do that, but unfortunately it's too rank for you to actually go down there and do some stuff. What do you do? Right? Because this woman was clearly offended. He tried to mention to her in a subtle way. That she smelled bad down there. And this woman was like, oh, offensive. And now she's suddenly backing away. Right? So here's the thing, guys, is that telling a woman that she smells bad down there, it's already going to be, for most women, a very, very sensitive subject, because they're already in their head about how they look on the date and how they're, presenting themselves. Right? And so for women, if they get any indication that they smell bad down there, it can be like a very traumatic thing for them at times. Like, it's like, oh my God, how dare you? And a lot of women will get defensive and be like, how dare you? What do you mean I smell this, and that? Or some women will actually be embarrassed. Like, they don't want to admit that they're actually embarrassed by the fact that you pointed out that, the thing that should be smelling the best in terms of this act happening is actually like smelling. And to women, when they hear that, they're thinking because they smell bad, you're automatically turned off by it and you don't want to do anything whatsoever. And the whole night is ruined. And we know that you're not thinking that. We know you're thinking, hey, if she just takes like a 5-minute shower and just kind of does a little cleaning, that I'll be fine. Like, I'll still go down there to Pound Town. I'll eat out down there, do whatever, but I just need her to be a little fresher than she currently is. Right? So how do you present this to her? Well, here's what you don't do, because I've seen so many videos about this on YouTube where I think the men get it wrong. Right? And this is what most of the advice you're going to get is, right? You're going to see stuff like this. Well, you need to like sit her down and say, hey, so, I just want to bring something to your attention. Like, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I really care about you. And I think you're so pretty and you're so great. But I just noticed that, sometimes there's a little scent down there. Maybe, we could just like they tell guys to really ease into it, or to say things like, hey, why don't we take a shower? And why don't we wash up and blah, blah, blah. And hey, if you want to go that route, you absolutely can. But do you want to have to do that every single time that she smells bad? Because realistically, it's just like, I think back to when Kevin Samuels was alive, and people say like, the way he delivered stuff was so harsh. And I've had times where I've given women advice on dating in general in a very nice tone, pretty much like I'm talking to you guys now, and it's taken the same way. So the point is this, is that sometimes, regardless of, it doesn't matter how you're telling the woman, it could just be the message itself that women are going to take offensive, right? But here's the other thing I've learned in dating, is that how you present stuff is going to determine how big of a deal she makes that thing, right? So you got to think about it like this. Think about it like with children, right? Like, I have a nephew, and he's 7 now, but when he was younger, like say 3 or 4, I'd go visit. There'd be times where, like, say we're playing or wrestling around, and all of a sudden he because of me, he like hits his head on something, or he like bumps into something weird, right? So he bumps into something, and then he looks at me, and whatever my reaction is going to be his reaction. So there'll be times where, like, say he hit his head on something, right? And I just be like, oh man, you hit yourself. Oh my God, that's so blah, blah, wee, let's go, blah, blah, blah. And what happens? He doesn't cry. Why doesn't he cry? Because I didn't have the other reaction, which is, oh my God, you're so hurt. You hit your head. Are you okay? Oh my God. And so because I didn't panic and freak out, he didn't panic and freak out. And the same thing with my niece. If my nieces were playing or something like that, and she suddenly does something that could be considered like she falls on the ground a weird way, right? And she looks at me. If I start freaking out, she's going to freak out. So in other words, it's transference. If I treat the thing that's happening to you like a big deal, now it's a big deal, and it's partially my fault for making it a big deal. So the same thing I found is true with women as it pertains to telling them that their stuff smells bad. If you buy into her reality that this is a big deal, then it's going to be blown out of proportion and be made to be a big freaking deal. Whereas on the other hand, if you just treat it as though it's just the most nonchalant thing in the world to where you're not making it a big deal, it's of no importance to you except for the fact that you want to go down there and do stuff. But in terms of like you being turned off by her, in terms of this being a major thing that has to be a big deal, that it's not, then what I found is that the woman's reaction to you telling her that she needs to wash up down there is also then not a big deal. So perfect example, right? Let's say you're dating somebody and you're about to go down there and you take her pants down and it smells weird, right? So what you don't want to do again is the thing of like, well, hey, well, I want to do some stuff, but before we get to it, let's just talk and let's just cuddle and hey, babe, maybe we should blah, 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 blah. No, you know what I say? I do this. I pull it, does it. Whoa, wait, whoa, shower time. Go take a shower and come back. That's how I tell them. Now, the initial reaction might be, what, me? What? Oh my God, like, how could you? And my response is, babe, real talk. Like, I want to do some stuff, but like, it's got to be fresh down there to do it. And hey, don't take offense to it because if my stuff will smell down there, if I just came from like a ball game and my stuff's like sweat like a rag doll, if you told me to take a shower, I totally would. So let's go get into the shower, come back, and we can get this thing popping because babe, I'm about to rock your freaking world. Now, I've said it in a way that's jovial, that's a little bit fun, but more importantly, it's showing her that this isn't a big deal. Sometimes we smell down there. Sometimes I smell down there, but that isn't, and that's totally fine. But if you want me to go down there to show you a really, really good time, then do the best you can to make sure that area is clean. And I do it with no emotion. I do it very nonchalantly, but I say it in a way that says, hey, we can definitely continue the proceedings once this is handled. Now, for those of you that want it, that are like, well, that seems so harsh and this is that, recognize, guys, there's a few things going on here. For one, is that you're bringing the reality to the situation. Women want to buy into your reality. And so this is an early example of her being able to see how you're leading the relationship and how you're handling situations. You trying to handle the situation for smelling bad like a delicate flower, and that you're almost saying as though you know it's going to be offensive, but you don't want to offend her. And so you're trying to walk around on eggshells. Walking on eggshells around women rarely get you the results that you want. So you trying to tiptoe around her smelling bad down there is not going to actually result in you getting the results you want. If anything, it's going to make the situation seem a lot worse than it actually is, to where she's going to get offended. And because you're bringing it to her in a way where you think she might get offended, now she's going to get offended. Versus just being like, whoa, hey, babe, wait, you know what? Before we finish on, you need to take a shower real quick. Like, just go ahead and do it. I'll be sitting here waiting. I'll be thinking about you, but because I want to have the fresh version of you versus the not fresh version. All right. But here's the other thing too, right? And this is what guys don't take into consideration because we don't have these parts, right? Is that how a woman smells down there can be determined of a few things. If she's been working all day and sweating, that could be one thing, right? But let's say she takes a shower and she comes back and it still smells bad. That could actually indicate other things that are going on with her that she wasn't aware of. It could be a yeast infection. It could be an STD. It could be a wide variety of other things. And imagine if you hadn't called her out on it, or imagine if you hadn't pointed out to her that the smell was different than normal. Because you could have a woman say you hooked up with like 2 or 3 times and it smelled fine. And then that 4th time it suddenly smells weird. And then she goes and showers because you called her out on it and it still smells weird. Now she knows that something is seriously wrong. She can get it checked. And she might have actually avoided a major disaster, all because you as the guy were willing to call her out and say, hey, babe, you need to check yourself down there. So recognize that you don't have to think that you're necessarily offending a woman. Sometimes it can really be a life-saving thing that you're doing by telling her that she smells down there. But the point is, regardless of whether it smells because of some cataclysmic thing that she's not aware is going on, or because it's just been a long work day and she forgot to wash down there, the point is that you do not need to show fear in telling her that her stuff stinks. Because again, you can point out to her, if you had some smelly stuff down there, you would totally understand if she don't want to handle you down there until you took a shower. And I've had plenty of women, I come to see them and they're like, hey, go take a shower real quick. You know what my response is? Okay. Why? Because I still want to hook up. And if hooking up with her means I got to do a little quick shower in order for that to happen, then I'm not going to complain about it. All right. So you got to take that same thing to her. Now, you want to say it in a nice way. You do want to, again, you want to say, hey, babe, like, go take a shower real quick. You ain't got to go into a deep dive and like, hey, babe, you really smell down there and your stuff stank. And how dare you, blah, 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 blah. No, you can just always say to a woman, hey, real quick, just go take like a 5-minute shower real quick. She'll know what that means. She'll know what that means, that it kind of smells down there. She might be like, oh, do I smell bad? It's like, babe, you know what? Hey, touch yourself, smell yourself. If you think you smell fine, it is what it is. But I'm telling you, like, just take a little quick shower, then come back. It only takes 5 minutes for her to get clean and whatever. And then when she gets back, you definitely show her the best time of her life. And that way she'll know, hey, if you want more of this, just make sure you're fresh every time. And over time, the women that was initially offended will just prepare in advance before you do stuff. You'll come back from a date. She'll say, you start making out. She'll say, hey, baby, real quick, let me go to the bathroom real quick and freshen up. She'll do it for you because she doesn't want to be called out again. But the fact that you did that one time and you brought her into the reality of like, this is not a big deal. Now she'll just know in advance to like have it fresh. So hopefully, guys, this helps you out. Now, for those of you that have been in the know, I'd be releasing the opening to my Introvert Dating Success Membership Academy is going to be opening on November 1st. So go to the website now and sign up for the waiting list. When you do that, you'll get access to a free PDF called the Girlfriend Roadmap Checklist, which will lay the foundation for you for what you should be doing during those first 3 months to go from dating a woman to getting into a relationship. If that interests you, again, the membership site's opening on November 1st, but go ahead and sign up for the wait list now at introvertdatingsuccess.com. All right. Also, guys, I love answering your questions on these shows. So if you want one of your questions answered on one of these shows, you can leave a comment down below under this video. And also, while you're at this channel, be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos that are all designed to help you learn to date at your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am Harry Wilmington, and I will catch you guys on the next show. I'm out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Introvert Dating Success Podcast. Visit us at introvertdatingsuccess.com for more great tips